So, welcoming yourself home to yourself. Hmm. Allowing yourself to drop in, to soften down, and to just really be with the swirl of your own experience. One little gem of wisdom that I really got to drop into today this past weekend was really being with the embodied experience of emotion without making any emotion wrong or bad or good or preferable, but just to see how this too can be integrated, whether it's joy or sorrow, whether it's ease or struggle, whether it's numbness or just kind of feeling lost or found. Just taking everything that comes in and really letting it be integrated through settling, through being still and present. One of my teachers always says, right now it's like this. Just really letting that be the mantra of the moment. Right now it's like this. So, whatever it is that is like this, befriending it, honoring as your own experience, as your truth. Now it's like this. Knowing that tomorrow it'll be like that. Even later today, it won't be like this. Ever-changing experience of the present moment. Because we are alive and life is living itself through us. And when your next inhalation flows in and you feel ready to, just allow the arms to extend out to your sides with your palms up and your elbows bent. Letting this be a gesture of arriving more fully in this moment with an expansive and spacious and open heart. With a heart that is ready to meet what is. And with your next breath in, reach your arms all the way up over your head. Feel the sides of your body lengthen and lift. Connect your palms, and as you exhale, slowly lower the hands, bringing them to rest right at the center of your chest. Feeling your chest extending upwards into your hands. Feeling how this gesture joins the right side, the left side at the midline, but also joins the inner and the outer, at the midline, feeling that the sort of the outer body at the hands, at the kind of root of the wrist is connecting with that energy of the inner body, the sternum rising into the hands. And even feeling that below your hands there's a release. And above your hands there's a rising. Appreciating the union of opposites that yoga draws our attention to. That yoga helps us to understand. Keeping the attention inside and allowing the eyes to stay closed. We'll chant together the sound Om 3 times, beginning with a deep breath in. Bow your head to your heart and release your hands to your legs with your palms up. Pausing for a moment to feel into the 2 words that best describe how you are in this moment. And really making space for that union of opposites, for the, sort of the vast array of what is possible for you in this moment. Like really letting it all in, seeing what comes forth. And slowly raise your head and open your eyes and stretch out your legs to the sides or shift your position in some way that feels good. And good to see you all. Let's take a moment to check in. So what I encourage you to do is to take your a blanket and cover up your mat and put another blanket underneath your head. And let's just for fun also have a belt close by in case we decide we want a little bit of extra support. But yeah, for now I think just a blanket over your mat will be good. And your belt and another blanket for your head. And getting into the hips and the ribs and the lower back and the achy joints all sounds really good to me. So we're going to begin, as we often do on our backs, in constructive rest. So that is where you have your knees bent with your feet standing down on your mat. And we're just going to come to bringing the breath into the belly. So as you come onto your back, let's just rest the hands on the belly for a moment. And just make sure that as you rest your hands on your belly, you're doing it in a way that feels effortless. Like you can just put your elbows on the floor, and if they don't easily reach the floor or your hands don't easily reach your belly, you can always put a little wedge of another blanket or a little pillow under your elbows to make that easier. But let's just get centered with the sensation of the breath in the belly for a moment. And one thing that I've really come to just appreciate and understand is that the belly breathing is not how we always need to be breathing, but it can be a really, really helpful way to breathe when we're wanting to bring more of our attention either, kind of mentally down, like out of our heads, and bring it lower in the body to give ourselves more of a feeling of being grounded. But also when we want to attend to the lower back and the hips, and we're feeling some kind of tension or resistance down there. So as you bring your breath into your belly nice and slow, you're just going to let your belly really be receptive to your breath. So that means you're not like pushing it out or sucking it in. You're really just letting the breath effortlessly expand the belly on the inhale. And then feel the breath just effortlessly releasing out from the belly on the exhale. And just stay with that rhythm, inhaling softly into the belly. Exhaling as you release from the belly, even feeling as though you're releasing the back into the floor a little bit more. And so see, and you might like to close your eyes for this, see as you breathe into your belly, if you can really feel the three-dimensionality of the breath also moving into your lower back. And what I really, really like to do here is to actually visualize the deep inside of the lower back. So not the muscles that you can touch with your hands on the outside of your body, but actually feel as though your breath has hands that are reaching from deep inside of your belly into the lower back muscles that weave around your spine and that shore up your spine on both sides. Feeling as if your breath has this really penetrating kind of X-ray vision quality to it, so that it just, you really have this sense that the breath, as it pours into the belly, also helps to expand the muscles of the lower back as we inhale. And then just give them this feeling of effortless release on the exhale. And I'm not sure about all of you, but I know that when my lower back is bothering me, it just gets really, really clenched and stiff. And it gets more that way on one side than the other. And so as we're here without, making one side bad and the other side good, just see if you can feel if there's one side that maybe is working a little bit harder, or one side that maybe wants or needs a little bit more attention. But really just coming into a really loving and present and conscious relationship with your lower back through your belly. And making sure that as you're there, that there's also a release happening in the jaw and in the face. Even the lips are getting soft. As any tension in the jaw tends to be reflected in the pelvis, and that tension in the pelvis, of course, manifests as hip pain or lower back pain. And speaking of our hips, now we're going to just do a movement that we often do when we're at the wall, but we're just going to take the hands and slide them down to the top of the thighs, so right to where the thighs are meeting your pelvis, right at the crease of the hips. And let's just give a little bit of pressure, a little bit of traction. So we're going to take the either the thumbs in the hip crease or the heel of the hand in the hip crease. And when your thighs are at this angle, it's different than when they're, kind of more vertical. They're at a little bit of an angle here. So you won't get a ton of traction, but just see if you can give a little pressure to the top of the thighs, pressing them away from your head. And even seeing what it's like to kind of follow that pressure into a little bit of an arch, like you let your tailbone go towards the floor, and then keep that pressure going and do a little tuck. So we're just going to do a couple of pelvic tilts here with a little bit of pressure on the thighs with the hands. And I know that it can be a little bit tiring for the hands and arms, but I think it's worth it if you can let it happen as we're, getting a little arm strength here, but also just taking a little bit of the compression out of the lower back and even out of the hip joint. And I can just feel even just this sense of pulling the crown of the head away from the tail, supporting that feeling of traction without tensing up the neck. Okay, let's just release the arms now. And let's slide the legs out onto the mat, just stretching them all the way out, reaching out through the heels. And let's take the arms up over the head and then reach them all the way to the floor with the palms down. So we can just take a moment to really reach and lengthen through the whole body, heels pushing out, fingertips reaching out. Lots of length here, even just allowing there to be a little bit of that arch in the lower back. Some deep breaths here. All right, and then on your next exhalation, just take your hands and reach to grab onto your right knee. So let's just clasp the hands around the knee or behind the knee. Remember that you can use your belt wrapped either behind the knee or around the knee if that feels better, but we're gonna hug it in here and we're really gonna lengthen out through the left leg. So we're gonna actually take a moment to focus on the left side. So before that happens, come back to your lower back and back to your sacrum. So at the lowest part of your lower back. And try to find, even though you have your right leg in and your left leg extended, try to find as much of a balanced anchor as you can through your lower back. So for me, that means that I kind of have to let my right leg release a little bit to the right in order for that to work. So you can feel for your body, like how can you feel the left side of the sacrum as heavy as the right side of the sacrum. And then we're gonna draw the left knee in, but not hold on to it. We're just gonna draw it in. So the left leg comes into the same position as the right leg, but we just keep holding on to the right leg. Yeah, this might be hard to do with your blankets on, but don't worry, I'm gonna warm you up so you won't need your blanket. Okay, then we're gonna reach the left leg straight up, push out through the heel, and then we're gonna very, very slowly lower the left leg down until you start to feel like it's making you move in your lower back, or until you feel unstable or uncomfortable, we're going to just lower it nice and slow, even take a couple of breaths. And then once the heel reaches the ground, we're going to just pull that leg back in, pull the left leg back in towards the chest, and then stretch it back up again. So we're going to be kind of going around in a little bit of a circle here. So we're going to lower the leg. Now, don't let this become a robotic action. I want you to stay really, really present. Even take a couple breaths to lower the leg so you could feel that warmth coming through your belly core. And then we're pulling the knee in, stretching the leg back up, and coming back down again. So feel the length coming through your hip. Now remember, if you're having a lot of tenderness in your lower back, your movement can be more like this. You can have your knee bent and then just pull it back in. You can just do like these little circles. You do not have to go very far. You never have to straighten your leg all the way. If it feels good just to do little circles with a bent knee, okay? So like what I'm doing right now, that can just totally happen, and I'm feeling plenty of belly engagement just at that level. Otherwise, stretch the leg up, keep it extended, lower it as far as it can go while keeping your lower back stable, and then pull it back in. And we're going to do one more of those. And then just let's actually keep the left leg nice and long. We're going to do one more thing here before we switch legs. So just let the left leg go back to the floor. Now, keeping with that abdominal engagement, we're going to bring the energy up. We're going to bring the energy up into the upper abs and get the upper back to move a little bit here. So really plant your left leg down, really pull through that entire left leg. Start to feel the energy of the belly core floating up towards the rib cage, or flowing up towards the rib cage. You're going to take a deep breath in, and on the exhale, we're going to draw the forehead towards the right knee and really pull the right knee in towards the chest. You could always sneak one hand behind your head if you need a little bit of support, but don't let your hands boss your head around. Just let your hands be like a pillow for your head. But otherwise, see if you can curl up by lifting your chest towards the ceiling, and just keep seeing how many of those thoracic vertebrae can come off the mat and how much your belly can draw in towards your spine and up towards your heart. And it's okay if you have a little shake. Keep reaching out through your left leg. Keep breathing. Keep squeezing on the right side and lengthening on the left side. And then inhale, release that, and just drop your arms back out to the sides. Release your right leg next to your left leg. Whew. Let it all go. I don't know about you, but I just feel this kind of flush of energy going right into my right hip after all that compression. Now I feel like a little bit more circulation coming into the front of the right hip, which I enjoy. And I can really feel that there's quite a difference between the two legs. Some of it is a little hard to explain, but see if you can feel it from within your own body. So remember that there's a very big difference between thinking about your body, doing things with your body, and actually feeling your body. And so we are here to be in this place of feeling our bodies. And so if you notice yourself thinking about your body, see if you can come back into the feeling of it, the actual sensations of being here. Okay, let's do the second side. So let's go ahead and draw the left knee in towards the chest, clasping the hands around the shin or behind the back of the knee, whichever your body might enjoy the most. And really, really stretch out through the right leg. So find that length through the right side. And then remember, we're looking for a sense of balance here. So can you make sure you're not tipping over and putting more weight on the left side? Can you make sure that the right side stays really grounded and stable? Can you just be aware of how this left side wants to go through this journey? Maybe it's a little different. And then we're going to let the right knee come in without holding on to it. We're going to stretch the right leg up, really reach up through the right heel, and then pay close attention to the sacrum and lower back, and just really slowly lower the leg, very gradually. Really take your time. Feel like someone's come along and started pulling on your leg for you. Lengthen, 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 and then draw it back in and reach it back up. Now you know from being in this body, if you really are here, that going slow is harder. Going slow asks you to turn on your muscles in a different way. So you could decide, oh, I want to go fast because it's really, really hard for me and it feels better for me to just go quickly through it. Or maybe there's part of you that's like, oh yeah, actually, I like the heat that I'm building. I like the intensity of the, of this energy that's being generated here. And so I actually do want to take my time. And you can really feel this kind of lengthening out of the hip socket, even lengthening out of the belly. And remember that we can just keep the knee bent the whole time and just do kind of little circles with the knee bent, and it doesn't have to be a big movement to be valuable. So I really try to take, this like capitalistic perspective out of my yoga practice as much as I can, and really get away from this like more is better and like harder is better. And to really be in this place of just appreciating subtleties, appreciating small amounts of healing movements. Just like we would appreciate how a particular medicine might have a better effect for us at a small dose than at a really big dose. Okay, so when you feel like you have really gotten the energy of that movement and it's feeling really complete and balanced on this side, we'll pause. And sometimes even I like to just pause with my heel just slightly off the floor for a moment and just give it a little extra pull and stretch before I set it down. Oh, thank you, belly. And then we're going to see how it feels to lift and really start to bring in that upper abdominal curl. So we're pulling the energy from the lower belly up and seeing if we can lift a bunch of those thoracic vertebrae off the ground as we pull in on the left leg. Oh, good, you made it back. I'm glad. Okay, so you could put a hand behind your head if you need a little bit of support. You can just hold onto your leg, but remember we're really trying to lift through the sternum. So see how much you can really stretch through the right leg to support this. See how much you can pull up from your belly towards your heart rather than just doing this all by pooching your belly out, which is more likely to happen if you've had a baby in your body. So mamas, be mindful, even if your babies have babies. All right, so lifting your chest, and as you feel ready, deep release here. Oh, the hips get really happy when it's over. So let the hands and arms relax. Maybe even just rocking the head a little bit side to side might feel good. And just taking a moment here to see if the sides have balanced out, to get a feel for how the messaging might have changed. See if there's anything that's holding on right now that could be releasing. And then as you're ready, go ahead and just slip the blanket that's under your head out for a moment. We're going to put it back shortly, but just slip it out for just a moment and bend your knees and plant your feet back in constructive rest. And take your arms nice and close to the sides of your body. And if your feet are sliding on your blanket, you can just peel up the edges of your blanket and have your feet on the exposed mat if it feels like you're not getting enough grip. We're not going to do a lot of grippy stuff, but I want you to feel that you can have a little grip. And we're going to tuck the tail and lead ourselves up into a little bridge, feeling the arms pressing down, the chin tucking towards the chest. Just getting a little bit of openness now in the front of the hips. And then as we inhale, we're going to peel one vertebra at a time back down. Kind of like you have a strand of pearls and you're laying one pearl at a time onto the table or onto the floor. And make sure that you end with dropping the tailbone all the way down. And then we're going to exhale, scoop it back up, and see if as you're scooping and lifting the tail, you could actually feel like you're scooping up your belly, really pulling in the strength of your belly muscles to lift your hips. So it's not just happening with your glutes, but you can really feel it happening from deep inside your belly. And then we'll just lay one pearl at a time back down onto the ground. And let's just do that one more time here. So rolling up nice and slow, feeling the belly kind of hollowing out almost as you start to lift your hips. And then setting yourself gently back down. Now we're going to keep the right knee bent, and we're just going to let the left leg extend. And in this one, we're going to let the arms go out to the sides. You get to decide whether you would like a blanket under your head or not. I'm feeling in this moment like I want kind of half a blanket under my head, just a little bit. So you can see how you feel once you have a sense of what's actually happening. Okay, so we're going to leave the left leg long on the floor. We're going to let the left leg take some rest. So the left leg isn't going to be doing anything at all. And all we're going to do is ground through the right hip, almost like we're trying to do half a bridge pose, but just on the right side. And what it's going to do is start to open the right hip. And you can imagine that if you had water inside of your belly, the water's flowing from right to left. So if you're not sure what I'm doing, you can look over here. So it actually creates a little bit of a spinal twist because my right shoulder is on the floor and my pelvis is turning to the left as my chest is turning a little bit to the right. And then I'm just going to slowly lower that right hip back down. So again, the left leg is completely passive. So, and you can see whether you want to inhale and lift. I like that for this one, I really do like to inhale and lift. And then exhale and release. So we're just going to get into a nice flow with our rhythm here. Just inhale, pushing into the right foot. The right knee is pointing up towards the ceiling. The right thigh is lengthening. And then we're releasing back down. Now you can keep your arms reaching out to the sides, or it might feel nice to reach your right arm along the floor beyond your head as you just feel that right hip lengthening, right side body lengthening. So just take it nice and slow, opening up that hip, and then releasing back down. And then opening up the right hip, pouring the energy, the contents of the belly and pelvis from right to left and back down. You might even feel like this is kind of strengthening for the right glutes. Also, if you're having right rib cage discomfort, if you have your right arm along the floor beyond your head, you might get some nice opening and releasing there. Okay, so next time that releases all the way down, let's just stay down and compare the difference, just stretching out both legs. I get much kind of smoother feeling of connection, like from the right armpit all the way down through the right knee. I don't know about you, but I just feel like everything is more open and more in alignment. Let's go ahead and bend the left knee now, planting the left foot down. And remember the right leg, the straight leg that's on the floor, that just stays totally passive the whole time. And the left shoulder is also going to stay really heavy so that you can enjoy the twisting action. And so we're just going to press into the left foot, lift the left hip, and pour the contents of the pelvis and belly from left to right. And then slowly lower back down. So I'm going to try as best I can. There's actually different ways to do this, but I'm trying today to keep my knee, my left knee and my shin kind of vertical. So not letting the knee sort of flow over to the side, but just kind of staying with that verticality as I lift, let the chest turn. So as my pelvis is pouring over towards the right, my rib cage and chest is turning over towards the left. And we're just staying really grounded with the left foot, really relaxed through the right leg. So again, the right leg is doing nothing. Nothing at all is happening with the right leg except for just this sense of receiving, just receiving through the right side. Remember that sometimes it feels nice to lengthen that left arm along the floor beyond the head as a way to just get into the ribs a little bit. So like for Jen, if you're questioning what's happening in your ribs and you want a little bit of exploration, this is a nice kind of gentle way to get into it and see what's needed, what's desired. But feeling into that length from your left knee all the way through the left hip, all the way from the hip through the armpit. And if your arm is extending, you might even feel it all the way to your fingertips. Taking it slow, nice and slow. Let's just take one more time. And then let it all release. Let the leg extend. Let the arms relax. See what's there. Let go of any tension, any effort that doesn't need to be here right now. And then we're going to bend the knees and roll to the side and bring ourselves up to sitting. And you can even leave your blanket on your mat if you'd like. And we're going to get any support that you need for sitting underneath your right sitting bone so that you can sit with your the ball of your right foot next to your left knee. And you're going to have the left heel kind of tucked back next to the left hip. Okay, so you've got your left leg back, you've got your right leg forward, and just a little bit of support. I'm sitting right at the very front end of a bolster. You can probably see it. I'm sitting on the short end of my bolster. Now, if for any reason at all this is causing strain on the knee, there's a couple things that can happen. One is that maybe first try sitting up a little bit higher. Another is sometimes tucking something behind the back of your knee. And the third is just stretching your leg out and doing something entirely different. One thing that I forgot to mention is that since we are going to be getting moving, sometimes when we're up on a bunch of support, it does feel good to bring the floor up a little closer to you with the blocks to go underneath the hands. So you can feel free. It's not obligatory, but it can be kind of helpful. And before we go into any movement, let's just take a moment to see if we can find a sense of balance in this asymmetrical position. So a theme that's been really up in my life and in the life of other people around me is this feeling of being kind of untethered, and maybe disorganized, but finding stability within that. And so this is actually kind of a good place to feel like, okay, I'm not symmetrical. Everything is not aligned. And yet, how can I find my balance? So just close your eyes and see if you can sense your left sitting bone kind of evening out with your right sitting bone, even though the left side doesn't really have the same support as the right side. And can you really have a sense of your spine evenly lengthening up and out of your pelvis? And then with this sense of support, we're going to just start with hands on the hips. And we're just going to let the left shin ground. So just like in the last movement, we were kind of pushing off of the foot that was connected to the bent knee. We're going to just let the left foot and shin and knee ground as we turn to the right. So you can kind of see with my hands on the hips that it's initiated in the lower body, and you probably see it and feel it in the upper body. So hopefully you can kind of feel a little engagement in the glute on that side. Oh, and by the way, if your forward knee needed a little bit of support, you could always tuck a blanket underneath it like this. Okay, so let this range of motion in the hip and this rotation in the spine be moderate. So remember that it doesn't have to be big to be valuable. We are grounding the right foot into the left knee, kind of close the energetic loop here and give ourselves a little bit more of a feeling of stability. And I want you to really stay within this kind of very gentle range. And what we're going to start to do is let the right arm drop back and let the left arm lift up. And then release. And we're just going to swing. I'm just going to let there be a little bit of a swing with the left arm. So it's going to go back and then it's going to swing up. Let the back arch as much as you like. You can even look up. To me, that feels really good on the thoracic spine. And release. And so just a little rotation through the ribs. And so my hope is that if you're having rib discomfort, that this is just a nice way to get that area moving without causing any stress or strain. And really let the pelvis, the movement of the pelvis, kind of set the depth and the pace. It's very easy to, once you start to get your arm moving, to kind of get distracted by that, because that's where the movement starts to look bigger and more interesting. But see if you can really let the pelvis, the experience of the pelvis, lead the way, because if that goes the wrong direction, you'll have a little hangover after doing the pose. Okay, one more time. Yeah, and enjoy it. See if you can do a movement that feels enjoyable, satisfying in some way to you. Okay, so let's take a moment just to bring both legs out and just roll them in and out for a moment. And let's go on to the other side. So let's tuck the right leg back. Let's bring the left leg forward. On this one, I'm definitely feeling like I need a little wedge underneath that left knee. So find your own way into balance. And again, let's find a way, once we get our props oriented, let's see if we can find a way to sit. So you kind of feel like, okay, both hip bones are at the same height. Both sitting bones are at the same height. Can I sit up tall? Can I close my eyes and really feel with that sort of X-ray, yogini vision? Feeling into the body. One thing that kind of helps me focus and connect is just to gently kind of tap or move the top of the sacrum in towards the belly a little bit. Helps me feel my sitting bones a little more. All right, let's bring the hands to the hips and begin this movement over to the other side. So again, grounding into the right foot, shin, and knee. So can this movement be initiated by pushing into the floor with the right foot, shin, and knee? And I like the hands on the hips because I can also just draw the elbows back and keep the chest open. And just let the gaze go with the movement. Maybe you start to feel your head wanting to move or being curious about moving. Just keep it easy and gentle, and keep the forward foot connected. So keep that left foot pressing into the right knee. Again, I'm feeling a nice stretch in the left buttock. Okay, so let's take it a little bit further without forgetting about the foundation. So letting the left hand drop back and sweeping the right arm up and across, kind of at a diagonal from the right knee. And then we're going to just exhale, release the arm, swing it back. Inhale, sweep it across. But again, stay connected to the foundation. So even if our foundation feels a little wonky and weird, can we feed it with stability by just continuing to support it? This is one of the deep lessons in my life right now, is really living in conscious relationship to our foundation. And the more we live in that conscious relationship, the more we can actually feed the foundation and rely on the foundation. We can trust in the foundation, and it keeps getting stronger. But if we are not conscious of it, then we can feel really disorganized and out of sorts sometimes. So notice how it opens up the breath to get that arm up. Notice how it opens up the ribs to get the arm up. And this is definitely a movement that I know I can overdo. I know I could go too far with this, but I choose to take my time and go easy on it. See how much that upper back arch, the neck arch, want to come in or not. And then when you feel complete, let's just unpretzel ourselves and come into a wide leg upavista. So you might like the same amount of height, you might like a different amount of height. I'm going to take it down a notch here. And if you're reorganizing, as I am, you can even put some of your props out in front of you, because they might come in handy in a moment. Okay, so in the colder months, I like to make sure that my feet are also on the cozy surface or on the mat. So you might find that's helpful too. And remember that, where all of our bodies are shaped really differently, especially in, where the thigh comes into the hip socket. So usually people with male pelvises have a more narrow angle, and then of course all of us have different angles, just no matter what the sex of your pelvis is. So so please feel free to not be as wide as I am here. I also started doing yoga when I was 18. We're gonna stir the cauldron. So just interlace your fingers and place your arms out in front of you. And let's first go clockwise. And so your cauldron can be as big or as small as you would like it to be. So a big cauldron would be really reaching forward and maybe even going a little bit back. That feels like too much. But, a very small cauldron might just be small movements. Okay, so choose the size of your cauldron, and it can keep changing shape. And let your arms be fluid. And again, we'll be getting into the side body. Your cauldron, mine suddenly wants to be kind of oval shaped. It doesn't want to be just a perfect circle. Feel yourself really grounding through your legs as you stir your cauldron, really anchoring through the heels. This also can totally be done with bent knees, by the way, like this, if there's a hamstring injury or it's just too tight to have the legs extended for such a long period of time. So just make sure the tops of the shoulders are dropping. And maybe you might like to think as if you were a witch or wizard Maybe you already think of yourself that way, but what kind of spells you're casting into your cauldron. And as we connect with those spells, let's go in the other direction. Just being very intentional with the movement. It could just be casting a spell of more ease in your body, or or anything. So you can start to let your head move a little more. I'm just feeling like I want to let my head release into the cauldron a little bit. So this is a very free form movement. It does not have to look and be a certain way. You can just feel that when your arms go forward, that helps to open up the back of the ribs. And maybe you want to stir it a little bit more in one direction or a little bit more in the other direction because of what's going on with your body. And that's actually where I'd like to take a pause, is just over on the right side. So maybe your hands are on the floor, maybe your hands are on your right leg, maybe your hands are on your block. But let's just see how it feels to anchor a little bit more over to the right side. Maybe some people even like to reach the left hand over towards the right foot. You could also loop your belt around your foot or just hold on to your ankle. Or again, like I'm doing here, holding the blocks. And as you're moving your upper body in the direction of your left leg, can you even feel like you're pulling from your navel? Pulling from your navel from left to right. I really like the closed energetic loop sensation of reaching the left arm across. You can let your head go down, or you can keep it up. You can see what feels good. But as you're leaning over to the right, can you stay long through your left leg? And also, can you make sure that you're not going into like a lot of really deep spinal flexion? So if you had a lot less flexibility than I do, then maybe just being upright like this and just leaning in might feel better rather than kind of hunching over your leg. So let's reach all the way up in the center. Whew. Just find your length in the center, and let's just bring the elbows down to the ribs for a moment and then back up. And then elbows down to the ribs. We'll just do this 3 times. Back up. Last one, elbows down to the ribs. Back up. And then release your arms. And if you were using blocks to go over to the first side, maybe you want to bring them over to the second side. But let's start to turning the belly from right to left as we lean over to the right, lean over to the left side, and see how much of it can actually come from moving lower down first. So when we just lead with up here, we first of all don't get the benefit in the lower back, but also sometimes can cause strain on the lower back. So let's see if we can get the belly to turn first. And I like to make sure I'm not creating too much resistance in my twisting. That's often where I notice myself get injured and hear a lot of other people get injured, is kind of crossing the hand over and pulling really hard. So I like to just keep it really gentle, keep the touch light, and just see what's available. How much is my body willing to start to release over to the left side? continuing to pull from the belly, from right to left through the belly. Soften the tops of your shoulders and still keep a little lift through your chest. Yeah. And again, we're all going to be in different places in different ways. Welcoming the awakening of the side body, the rib cage, the outer shoulder. Maybe it feels good to bow the head down or keep it up in line with the spine. And then let's take our time and reach up with the right arm and the left arm. Bring the elbows down to the sides of the ribs on the exhale. Inhale, reach and stretch up. Exhale, elbows down and in, chest lifting. One more time. Inhale, up. And even any amount in this direction, any amount of this gesture can be helpful, if any of these gestures. Okay, so that probably feels like enough time with your legs out to the side. So let's bring them in with support, joining the soles of the feet together. And let's see how much of a forward bend is available in Baddha Konasana. So you can add a little bit more lift. I often find that my Baddha Konasana feels better on more height than the prior pose. So I'm even going to take a couple more blankets because this is where I start to feel a little bit more of my hip tension is when I come into this shape. So I'm going to take, for myself, I'd like a little bit of extra support. So I'm going to take my bolster on top of my blocks. So I have like a little table to rest my arms. And actually one of the things that I really like to do here is just to rest the elbows on that support and then to rest my head in my hands like this. And you may or may not get down that far. You may like to just rest your forearms on the bolster. You may like to just sit all the way up, but don't have the head down be the goal. Let's see if we can really emphasize this feeling of, and we've already done this in other ways, but this feeling of kind of lifting the belly up out of the pelvis, and then we lengthen the belly forwards. Lengthen the spine forwards. Yeah, and another way that a lot of people like to do the head support is if you have a firm enough bolster. This one's a little old, so it's not very, it's not stiff enough really to do this, but you can kind of get a feel. If you have a stiff bolster, you can angle it so that you're resting your head on the short end of the bolster like this. So this way I don't have to go down as far. And remember, you can adjust the distance from your feet to your pelvis. Sometimes it feels good to have them farther forward. Sometimes it feels better to have them closer in. Be so gentle with your knees. Sometimes the knees want a little bit of support underneath them. Well, let's welcome the breath deep into the hips. Down the thighs. across the lower back. You can even return to that belly breathing that we started at the beginning of our practice today. And see if you can feel your breath expanding into your lower back from your belly, from the inside out. One of the many gifts of yoga is feeling our bodies from the inside out. Slow, deep breaths. As you're ready, slowly, slowly rise back up. This is one of those poses that I definitely find I could stay in for a really long time on some days, not all days. And then we're just going to bring the legs in with the hands, swing the legs around. And I'd like to bring us, I can't see my little clock. Okay, yes. It's time for this. Okay, so I'd like to bring us into an elevated Shavasana shape. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a long folded blanket, so a blanket that's, around the length of my torso or a little longer, but not as wide as my torso, okay? And I'm going to lay that down. Now, if you have a blanket shortage and you need to remove the one from underneath you, feel free to do that. But otherwise, it might be kind of nice to have a cozy softness underneath you. And I'm going to take a blanket underneath my head up here. So I have a blanket for my spine, a blanket for my head. And then I'm going to do a little special support for my hips in a different way. So we were just focusing quite a bit on external rotation. I'm going to actually really appreciate, I know my SI joints, if I do too much external rotation, they start to get a little cranky. I know maybe there's a couple other people that this happens to as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my bolster here to go underneath my knees, and I'm going to take my belt and bring it around my thighs pretty close to the knees. And before I tighten it all the way, I'm actually going to do a little bit of a hands-on adjustment on myself. So my hands are going to go like this. Okay, so my hand that's on the inner thigh is going to push down, and my hand that's on the outer thigh is going to go up. Okay, so this is how it's going to go. I'm going to press my inner thigh down. I'm going to pull my outer thigh kind of out and up. And I might even do that starting all the way out at my sitting bone and just really rotate the whole thigh. I might even, invite it to come all the way down my lower leg. And so I'm going to do that on both legs. So again, the hand that's on the inner thigh goes down, the hand that's on the outer thigh pulls up. And just giving a nice little internal rotation adjustment. And if you happen to have an extra blanket that you're not using to cover yourself, a nice little touch that my teacher Judith always insists on is a little roll for the ankles. I happen to have that right there, so I'm going to just go for it. So I've got the thighs internally rotated, Even got my calves a little internally rotated. Then I'm going to tighten down my belt just a little bit so it's kind of holding my legs in that position. Now, this isn't for everybody, but again, a lot of us with sacroiliac joints that have special needs might appreciate. And I'm going to keep that feeling of my sitting bones being kind of wide as I sit. Remember, I'm sitting in front of the blanket that's going along my spine, not on top of it. I'm going to lie back and even readjust my butt a little bit, readjust that ankle roll a little bit. And I know that sometimes for people that get a little claustrophobic or don't like being tied up for some reason, might not like this leg position, but for me it just feels very soothing, and there's this sense that there can be a nice release deep in the hips here, and we did a lot of external rotation, so just now allowing for that release. And I'm going to give myself a nice big hug across the chest and just wiggle those shoulder blades apart, just even using the hands to pull on the upper back a little bit and just kind of nestle in, get those shoulder blades down as well as apart, and then drop out the arms to the sides and make any other cozy adjustments that you feel you need to make. So that you can really let go, so that you can really, really rest. Appreciating this opportunity to be still, to be here with yourself. Going towards the experience of feeling your body. Discerning when you go into thinking about your body and just welcoming this chance to be feeling your body, feeling from the inside. Feeling through the contact with your breath. Feeling your body. It's the mind that layers thoughts or ideas or judgments on top of those feelings. So when you notice that happening, just coming back to the feeling. Feeling deeper and deeper into your body with your breath. Every so often you may find yourself enjoying a Deeper breath in through your nose and a big sigh out through your mouth. Hearing the sound of your own relaxation, your own release and surrender. Your own letting go. Feeling into your capacity to love and accept your body and really your whole being right here in this moment. You might even find that it feels medicinal to hear yourself say, I completely love and accept myself. I completely love and accept my body. I completely love and accept myself just as I am. Just start to feel your breath naturally deepening. Feel your body receiving even more of this experience, just taking it in, soaking it up, letting it become more and more a part of who you are and how you are. And as you're ready, you can just very slowly roll yourself over to one side. Moving one part of your body at a time as you press yourself gently to sitting and come to resting with one or both of your hands at your heart. Feeling into the way that you may have smoothed out some rough edges, the way that you may have made some important connections inside of yourself, found your foundation, your inner balance, sense of ease or grace, or just some relaxation. And just imagine that whatever you have taken in through your practice today, you can give away and send it out as a gift to whomever you choose. So turning your hands away from your body in any direction, and just imagine that from your heart and your hands and your breath, you can radiate this experience and offer it up for the greater good. Offer it up as a gift of peace, as a gift of health and resilience, with a wish for all beings to live with ease, with justice, with equity, and with so much love. Thank you. Thank you so much.